We are live.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the round one debate match between the debate teams from Tilburg University and the Hague University of Applied Sciences. My name is Anna Maria Urbanova. I'm a co-director of Corks Foundation that organizes this competition. And together with my colleague, Professor Aurélien Lorange, will be your hosts for this match. The debate teams have received 7 days prior to the statement that they will be debating today on, and that is that employment conditions of athletes must align with international labor rights principles in sports contracts. The two teams had 7 days to prepare for both positions, against and in favor. The positions themselves will be allocated 5 minutes before the actual match starts. But without further ado, the floor is now with the teams for introductions, perhaps starting with Tilburg University debate team. Ms. Vasile, the floor is yours.
Good evening. My name is Dana Vasile. I'm a first-year student at Tilburg University Global Law program, and I am very, very excited to be here and debate with you.
Thank you and welcome. From the Hague University, Ms. Altlani.
Hello, I'm from the Hague University of Applied Sciences, and I'm currently in my second year studying international and European law. And I'm very excited to start this debate, and I wish everyone good luck.
Thank you and welcome. From Tilburg University, Mr. Benasio Akire.
Good evening. My name is Venancio Aguirre Rosas. I'm from Tilburg Law School, studying also global law, second year.
My apologies. I think your audio cut off shortly. Can you please introduce yourself again?
Yes. My name is Venancio Aguirre. I'm from Tilburg University, Tilburg Law School, global law, bachelor, second year. Good luck to everyone.
Thank you very much and welcome. From the Hague University of Applied Sciences, Ms. Luna Tineman.
Hello, nice to meet you all. I'm Luna. I'm in the first year of international law of the Hague University, and I'm really grateful for being here again. Thank you so much.
Thank you and welcome. Also from the Hague University, Mr. Nicolas Rousseau.
Hello, my name is Nicolas Rousseau. I'm in my second year of international and European law here in the Hague University of Applied Sciences. I'm very excited to start this debate today. Thank you.
Thank you very much and welcome. For everyone as well, the two teams have their coaches. The coaches for each team are also present for today's call. From the Hague University of Applied Sciences, Mr. Syed Altamash Khalil and Ms. Amira Aveni Montero. And from Tilburg University, that is Mr. Rami Fransavi and Mr. Andy Zhang. In both sides, the teams are also coached by past participants of the competition. So welcome again and best regards to both Tilburg and The Hague.
Thanks for having us.
So for the purposes of today's match, we'll know shortly the positions for the two teams. So starting with the allocations of positions, if you can just give me a bit heads up when you can see my screen. So on the screen, you should now see a wheel of positions. So as always, there are two positions available for each team for the randomizer, both the against and in favor. All right, so for the purposes of today's match, the against position will be defended by the debate team of the Hague University of Applied Sciences, making the in favor position being defended by the Tilburg University debate team. So for clarification, the debate statement will be: employment conditions of athletes must align with international labor rights principles in sports contracts, which will be the position defended by the Tilburg University's debate team, which will also be opening the match. And the Hague University of Applied Sciences debate team will argue that the employment conditions of athletes don't have to align with international labor rights principles in sports contracts. You will now have 5 minutes to finalize your preparations, and afterwards, the position in favor will open the match. Wishing you best of luck. You can close your cameras and microphones and finalize your preparations. Thank you very much. Your time for final preparation is now over. We'll be starting shortly with the position in favor. So, debate team of Tilburg University, you have 4 minutes. As per usual, the time starts when you start to speak.
Okay, before I begin, may you please reconfirm me that I'm both audible and visible?
Yes, you are. Thank you.
Okay, great. Then I'm going to start in 3, 2, 1. Good evening, distinguished judges and fellow colleagues. Today, my colleague and I will argue in favor of the following topic. Starting with the first one. The principles that are covered by the ILO conventions set a minimum standard of basic labor rights.
My apologies for interrupting you. There was interruption on the side of internet.
Of child labor.
My apologies for interrupting you. There seems to be an internet connection issue. I would kindly ask every other participant on the call, other than me and the speaker, to please turn off your cameras to lower the load, and we shall start the timer again. Ms. Vasile, again, my apologies. Whenever you're ready, please restart.
No problem. So am I now audible and visible?
Yes, you are. In case there is another interruption, I would just also ask you to turn off your camera.
Okay.
For now,
okay.
we can
Just
proceed as usual. Thank you.
Okay, great. So, good evening again, distinguished judges and fellow colleagues. Today, my colleague and I will argue in favor of the following topic. Employment conditions of athletes must align with international labor rights principles in sports contracts. I'm going to have 4 main points in my speech, starting with the first one. The principles we are talking about are covered by the ILO conventions that set minimum standards for basic labor rights. 5 of them: freedom of association, elimination of forced labor, elimination of discrimination in the workplace, abolition of child labor, and a safe and healthy working environment. Second main point of my speech. Let's talk about the general context. Team sports are more regulated than individual sports, and therefore the alignment of them with international labor rights won't affect them negatively. Why are they more regulated? Because they have more stakeholders involved, because they have a bigger structure. That's why we have, for example, the FIFA guidelines. However, the alignment would mainly benefit athletes from individual sports, such as boxing, skating, tennis, and so on. Because if contracts would be done in such a way to be in alignment with the principles mentioned before, it means that athletes will have more security and foreseeability of risks, AI, better working conditions, which leads to better performance. I'm saying this because, for example, in contact sports, because of the lack of equipment regulations, athletes have while they are doing labor, they are injured, and actually some of them are even injured for life. This should never happen. My third main point, our argument. The principles of eliminations of forced labor and freedom of association guarantee better protection to athletes in individual sports. Needs to be granted protection. But let's split my argument into 2. First, the freedom of association, as defined by Convention number 87 and 98 ILO. The problem is that contracts are the foundation of every athlete's career, the legal document where the obligations and benefits are stipulated. Because there is this lack of regulations in favor of the athletes, and because these individual sportsmen are dependent upon the manager or the agent for work and thus remuneration, this leads to athletes being forced by the environment to enter into contracts that are not tailored to their needs, because there is too much leeway and because the manager can at any time take another athlete that would be okay with these unregulated contracts. But the problem is even bigger, because if an athlete is not part of the one association per country that is recognized to be part in the Olympics game, and even associations that give the sportsmen access to highly competition, then you have no future in sport. You have no career. If you do not play by their rules, you are out of the game. So athletes, individual that are playing individual sports, have no freedom of association. more than that. Elimination of forced labor, as defined by Convention 29 ILO, as all work or service which is exacted from any person under the threat of a penalty and for which the person has not offered himself voluntarily. We are telling you that because of the loophole of the contracts and the desire of athletes to succeed, then they lead to perform unwanted labor just so they can perform the wishes of their managers, of their bigger associations that they are forced to be part of. This happens especially with underage. That's why we have, for example, the case of Mike Tyson. So this also leads, this lack of regulation and alignment with labor rights leads to forced labor. My fourth and final point, what are the results? We would have more qualitative and competitive environment for athletes.
Ms. Vasila, please, could you repeat your last sentence? It cut off. We paused the timer.
Hear me now?
Yes. Just a point of technical issue. Can you maybe reconnect on mobile network if that could be a better connection for you?
Yes, of course. After I tell my last sentence or before I do that?
Yes, please tell your last sentence, and then for your next speaker.
Okay, I think my last questions was that we would have more legal mechanisms to protect. Was that
It's cut
audible?
off at most mechanisms. Could you please try once more?
Okay. So my last proposition was that as a result, we would have more legal mechanisms to protect individual athletes and also more qualitative and competitive environment for athletes.
Thank you. This fit within the last seconds that were on your timer. It was paused when your video and connection cut off. For the next speaker from Tilburg University, please make sure you have a stable connection. I do recommend trying with mobile network in case you are currently on Wi-Fi.
Yes, thank you.
Right. On that note, we are now turning in the position against, defended by the debate team of the Hague University of Applied Sciences. Whenever you're ready, you have 4 minutes.
Just to check before, am I audible and visible?
Yes, you are. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, honorable judges in opposition, my name is Nicholas Rousseau, and together with my colleagues, we'll be representing the Hague University of Applied Sciences and be arguing that employment conditions for athletes do not have to align with international labor rights principles in sports contracts. This view will be expounded upon in the following 3 points. Firstly, the need for contractual autonomy. Secondly, the danger of competitive disadvantage. And thirdly, the autonomy of domestic law and the difficulty of implementation and enforcement of international labor standards. Concerning the first point of contractual autonomy, while we do recognize the minimum standards set by international labor law, and we do not disagree with this standard per se, however, making these requirements mandatory clashes with the key principle in contract law of contractual autonomy. In all contracts, including sports contracts, the principle of contractual freedom is a key principle which must be respected. This is most importantly outlined in the case Henderson v. Henderson, where the Supreme Court of Canada affirmed the principles of freedom of contract in the context of employment contracts. This is also additionally codified in the UNIDROIT principles of international commercial contracts in Article 1.4. This key principle of freedom of contract is important in protecting the autonomy of parties when signing contracts and making sure that their interests are respected, and additionally ensuring that parties should have discretion to select their preferred form of dispute resolution. Relating to competitive disadvantage, many countries struggle to even ratify ILO conventions such as minimum age convention or minimum wage fixing conventions. This would cause competitive disadvantage as countries that haven't ratified such conventions would have an easier way to swiftly and effectively train and utilize their athletes without worrying about such regulations or standards, whereas countries that have ratified such conventions would have to appeal to extreme regulation concerning these attributes. This connects to the issue of the autonomy of domestic law. One size simply does not fit all concerning sports. Domestic law is better suited to make its own labor laws as it allows for the tailoring of legislation to circumstances of that specific country. domestic lawmakers are more intimately familiar with the cultural, social, economic context within their jurisdiction, enabling them to create laws which are more responsive and effective in addressing local labor issues. And additionally, there are a variety of stakeholders, including government representatives, labor unions, employers associations, and civil society organizations, which can impact this. Now we get to the difficulty of implementation and enforcement of ILO conventions. ILO conventions are already difficult to enforce and implement in specialized situations, such as with domestic workers in the very own country which both of our teams reside in, the Netherlands. While the Netherlands has ratified the Domestic Workers Convention, it has ceased to actually implement this effectively and has been under constant scrutiny due to this. If it is already difficult to enforce such standards in states that have already ratified such treaties, how can we expect this to be any different for extremely specialized instances, such as sports ranging from football to even chess? In conclusion, we recognize that one size simply does not fit all in advocating for the autonomy of parties in contracting matters, respecting unique dynamics of the parties involved, and we agree that we should allow stakeholders to craft agreements tailored to their specific needs and contexts. We empower athletes and sports organizations to navigate their professional relationships effectively while ensuring compliance with local laws and regulations. Thank you.
Thank you for your submission. This concludes the opening statements. We will now move to rebuttals. Starting with the position in favor, debate team of Tilburg University, you have 2 minutes.
Sorry, before beginning, would it be possible to switch my network?
Yes,
so
please.
to avoid any, okay.
This is just a side note for the judges. Please disregard any technical issues aside those that might impact your ability to judge in regards to the content of the performance for the teams. We try to make sure that the teams aren't penalized for technical issues. Thank you. Right. For the Tilburg University, your speaker is not ready. Oh, there he is.
I think he's waiting to be let in.
Am I audible?
Thank you.
Yes, too.
Yeah. Sorry for the inconvenience. Okay. Just to confirm, am I audible and visible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Now, thank you, opposing counsel, for your introduction. First of all, this rebuttal will focus on the 3 points addressed by the opposing counsel and regarding the relevance with the statement here. First of all, regarding the freedom of contract. Freedom of contract is one of the main principles that exists in contract law, and it's one of the principles of law recognized worldwide. However, freedom of contract is not absolute. And freedom of contract can be intervened by the state if they believe that there's unfair requirements when dealing between the parties, between an agent and the principal, or the employee and the employer. Therefore, it's normal, such as in the case of Hawley v. Kemp in the UK, that the state intervenes to guarantee a more fair, suitable point between contracts. Moreover, regarding domestic law, most countries have aligned with the declarations of the ILO, which this links to a final point regarding the relevance of the arguments of the opposing counsel regarding on how this will actually affect sports contracts. Here, we give the notion that this will affect beneficially because they will their fundamental rights of labor law will be more protected, especially in the sense of freedom of association and the exclusion of forced labor. However, the arguments presented by the opposition seems more in general and not aligned with the statement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving to position against the debating of Hague University, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Before I start, I would like to confirm that I'm audible and visible.
Yes, you are. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to first start by reminding everyone that we are not here today standing against the application of international law. On the contrary, we recognize and advocate for the minimum standard approach. However, our issue is with the ultimate obligation imposed by the word must. Second, we already have ILO convention that states ratified, but in practicality, nothing is changing. For example, we have the ILO Convention on Domestic Workers, which Netherlands, as a state party to it, has ratified, but in practicality, no changes have been actually made. Now, that's why we need to take into consideration the limits and constraints imposed on the parties involved, but also on the states. The differences between minimum wages, countries' economies, and standards. We need to prioritize the efficiency and practicality of what we have gathered here today for. If we are spending our time talking about how these principles should be adhered to, why don't we talk about how are we going to implement and enforce them? How are we going to monitor the implementation of these rights? We need to change something in regards to the employment conditions of athletes. Yes, but we need to do it in an efficient way and in a way that we actually truly recognize the rights of athletes and not minimize them by going about it in a general and specific way. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. For the second rebuttal on debate team of Tilburg University, you have 2 minutes. Yes, you are. Thank you.
It seems my colleague has some issues regarding the internet connection. Will it be possible for her to use my computer? Speak.
Of course.
So before I begin, can I confirm that I'm both audible and visible?
Yes, you are. Thank you.
Thank you. This motion talks about if these employment contracts that are made by sportsmen should align or not with international labor rights. If it's a motion of must, and we are telling you that they must because we need these principles to be respected. We are not talking about implementation. We are not talking about how we should monitor the implementation. The motion is strictly about if this change must or must not or does not have to be made. And because of the reasons we've provided in the opening statement, we believe that the change must be made. And we believe that the athletes, either from team member sports or from individual member sports, should have their rights respected, their international labor rights respected. And this can only be done so if these articles of the contracts are in line with the international labor rights principles. Moreover, my colleague and I want to reinforce the fact that there are a lot of countries who have in fact ratified these conventions. So this can be translated into a lot of countries who accept the fact that international labor rights should be implemented in every area of their country. This includes also sports law. We believe that this implementation will be made, but this is not the focus of the debate. The focus of the debate is whether the employment conditions have to be aligned or not. And we are telling you that they have to be aligned because the athletes will benefit from this, and because of the athletes needs to have a regulated and must have a regulated working environment so that they can achieve better performances and a better career in sports. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your submission. The debate team of Hague University of Applied Sciences, you have 2 minutes for your second rebuttal.
Before I start, am I audible and visible?
Yes, you are. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Opposition. First, I would like to restart by addressing the contractual autonomy of parties that was an issue detected by the opposing party. Now, I would like to state that contractual autonomy has been mentioned and defined in multiple case laws, such as Lochner v. New York, and multiple articles or regulations by international organizations such as the Private International Law Act in Article 116, and in the European Union by the Rome First Regulation, which provides for the principle of party autonomy in its Article 3. Now, second, in regards to what we are gathered here for today, is to discuss whether this alignment must be with consideration to international labor rights. Now, we say that it must not. We are completely advocating for the minimum standard to be applied by all countries that have ratified the ILO conventions. But are we forgetting the countries that haven't ratified ILO conventions? What about India? What are we going to do in terms of all these countries that are not members to the ILO conventions? How are we going to force them to subscribe to such a convention that limits so much of every country's economies? Because in most cases, countries survive and thrive by what sports does to their economy. Now, third and last, I would like to reiterate that we are here to adhere to a way in which we can implement labor rights in a minimum standard that can benefit and is effective, accessible, and all states can ratify it because a change is needed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This marks the end of rebuttal session, and we are now proceeding with conclusions, starting with the position in favor. Debate team of Tilburg University, you have 2 minutes. Not fully. Please try again.
Am I audible?
Yes,
Hello?
I think just to be on the safe side, please turn off your video. I'll do the same on my side. I'll turn it on when you have 30 seconds and when your time is up. Thank you.
Okay. So do I turn off the video?
Yes,
Okay.
just
Okay,
turn off
perfect.
your camera and let's just go with the audio so we try as much possible without network issues.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So in this conclusion, I will address firstly the 2 main points addressed in the rebuttals. First of all, regarding contractual autonomy. It was already mentioned in the rebuttal before that contractual autonomy is not an absolute right or an absolute principle in contracts. Especially now that they mentioned the case law of Locker v. New, it's important to note that this landmark case was also quashed by the Supreme Court later on because the Supreme Court realized that some degree of state intervention is needed to protect the interests of the most needed in contracts. And here is where we are talking about labor law and how the power imbalance affects employees and athletes that have their rights being affected. Moreover, it's important to note out that overall, the opposing counsel did not address how the international labor rights principles are directly connected to contracts in this sense. Yes, they talk about the ILO declarations, but the ILO and conventions, and declarations are in a huge amount of numbers in different fields, but they did not address the ILO declaration regarding the rights, the international labor rights principles, which are 5. 2 of those 5 which we already stated that are the most important and which are the most being affected since we don't have these international labor rights principles. Moreover, their fallacy regarding the autonomy of domestic law sweeten more national necessities does not mean that other states do not need the ILO principles to protect and enhance legal mechanisms regarding athletes. Therefore, we believe that we are strongly supporting the statement that international labor rights principles must align in sports contracts because they protect better the athlete and they regulate them in different aspects. Thank you.
Thank you very much. For now, the conclusion of the Hague University of Applied Sciences. Your team has 2 minutes.
Can you see and hear?
Please try again.
Can you hear and see me?
Yes, thank you. Whenever you're ready then.
Thank you. Yes. First of all, I would like to address that the contractual autonomy allows parties to adhere to the international standard. It is not something we're excluding. It is, again, about the mandatory character of this notion. And although the implementation of international labor law standards for the employment of athletes sounds beneficial for all, as opponents have mentioned, it would protect the athletes' rights and its own interests, promoting equality and security. The opponent, the protest side, has not addressed some of the most pressing questions in this scenario, which would be how are we addressing the non-uniformity of rules relying on the various resources and statutes of a state, and what would the enforcement of these measures look like? We need to respect the autonomies of the parties within the formation of a contract, as is it the right in the realm of contract law, most especially in recognizing all states have sovereignty to decide to create their own labor laws. Besides each party having the freedom to choose under which conditions and what about they want to conclude a contract, forcing sports contracts of employment to be aligned with international law principles would result in parties not being able to choose for themselves under which condition they want to work and which national jurisdiction they would want to be applicable in case of dispute. The freedom of contract is a standard that we have already set internationally. It is well enforced worldwide and should be respected in all regards. As my colleagues have mentioned before, there's another hidden disadvantage in the seemingly great proposal. Countries that cannot fulfill the requirements set by these standards will just be left out and end up with non-compliance. This could be due to the lack of resources of the country or cultural differences. In conclusion, while it's crucial to ensure that athletes are afforded the rights and protection they deserve as workers, attempting to harmonize labor regulations on an international scale within such a diverse sector may be overly ambitious and could risk undermining the flexibility athletes need in forming their contracts, as it is about striking a balance between safeguarding athletes' rights and respecting the unique dynamics of the sports industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Both teams, you can now relax. You have exited the part of the match which is graded or rather scored by the judges. As always, the judges have 2 business days, in this case as we are on Friday, to review your match and submit their scorecards. When the organizing team confirms the scores, you are made aware of the results and the score sheets will be provided to the teams. Feel free to turn on your cameras. We'll do a little bit of feedback session. In case there are any prevailing technical issues, we'll just close the cameras and let the speaker speak. But for now, let's try it this way. So perhaps starting with the debate team of the Hague University, Mr. Russo, how did you find the debate, the research? Have you maybe heard arguments that your team also prepared? If you were giving the other side's arguments position?
Am I audible and visible, first of all?
Well, thank you very much for checking. Yes, you are.
Okay, great. Yeah, I thought it was a really good debate. Great use of, I think, legal instruments from both sides, arguments as well. I thought it was a great back and forth. And we were definitely on our toes. I'm sure hopefully the other side was as well. And yeah, researching the topic was very interesting. It's not something which we've personally researched before, so I think it was good to gain that insight. So yeah.
Thank you very much. From Tilburg, Mr. Akira, how did you find the debate? Do you hear maybe arguments that your team also prepared? Should they have been given the other side?
I guess I'm audible, right? So, okay.
Yes, there is a bit of delay,
Yes.
but you're.
Okay. First of all, I believe it was a great experience, great debate. Also, the research phase was also very interesting and very, especially because of the field of law, which is completely different of one will be learning in law school. I believe also as well that it was a very great match with a lot of good arguments from both sides. It was unfortunate that our internet session had some issues regarding audio and visibility, but I believe that overall it was a very, very qualitative match with very good legal research. So yes.
Thank you very much. I mean, we are always ready to adjust for the technical issues. So we are on the side of organization. I'm really glad that it worked out at the end. And on that note, Ms. Akilani, how did you find the match? Any experience with the topic in your studies already, maybe?
So I found the match very interesting. At the beginning, the topic, when I read it, I didn't really know what to expect, but it definitely gave us all an opportunity, I think, to enrich our knowledge in terms of international labor rights and not only think so limited in terms of workers that we normally think of, but also to athletes and just get a bit of a better understanding of what sports law is and how sports contracts are conducted. And I think that overall, we all did an amazing job, and I'm really happy. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Ms. Vasila, how did you find the match? Is there any message you would like to share with the other team maybe as well?
First, am I both audible and visible?
You are audible and now also visible.
I don't think so. I think it's better if you come here.
Okay, great. So I think we can say that this was all a challenging experience, challenging starting with the topic because I have none of the other team which had like really good arguments and strong arguments, strong press and so on, and also challenging because, well, the worked out and that we were both team able to express our argument.
Thank you very much. From Hague, Ms. Tinneman, how did you find the match? Is there any message you would like to share with the other team?
I think I would like to congratulate everyone. I was rather impressed on the skill proved today, and I am, happy to have done this. It was quite a fun experience.
Thank you very much. And as we also have the judges for the coaches for the two teams present on the call, I would like to ask if maybe they would also like to share some short feedback or maybe impressions of the match with the teams. Maybe starting with the Tilburg University's matches and also our past participant, Mr. Zeng.
Hello, am I audible and visible first and foremost?
Yes, you are.
Beautiful. Yeah, I'm very impressed by the debate. With regards to the Tilburg team, we went through certain arguments, and I'm happy that they have been effectively been employed. And with regards to the Hague University, very creative arguments with regards to the enforceability of international law. That's always a very good angle to challenge certain propositions. So I was very pleased with their submissions too. So it was very interesting to watch.
Thank you very much. And also turning to the Hague University of Applied Sciences, also our past participant, Mr. Altomar Khalil and Professor Montero.
Yes. Well, good afternoon, everyone. And I would just like to congratulate both teams because you had such an amazing match today. So well done. As to the feedback, I'm going to leave that to the judges. I just want to wish both teams all the best.
Well, I can only echo what Mira just said here. I think great job. Everybody did really well. And I really like the fact that both of the teams, both Tilburg and The Hague, in terms of the rebuttals, you picked the point and you tried to rebut the opposition's point after putting your stance. So I think that's a very good angle to take as well. And besides that, I just wish both of the teams, especially the Tilburg University, all the very best in their future endeavors.
Thank you very much. From the side of organization, I can only mirror. It's a pleasure to welcome both universities again in the competition, and what a start to the first round and to the competition for both your teams. Really well done on the execution and the application of your research during the debate. Since you're both from the same country, I'm just going to ask a very short question. What would be the first thing you would recommend the other team do should they visit your city? So should the Hague University debate team come to Tilburg, what should be the very first thing they should do? To maybe food to get, places to see, and vice versa. What should the Tilburg University debate team do if they come to The Hague?
May I? Yeah. I mean, given the faculty that we're both studying in, I guess the Peace Palace would be a go-to, as well as the International Court of Justice. It's quite cool to be at the birthplace of such a huge institution. So, yeah, come by.
Want to suggest something? Well, in addition to that, we would, of course, offer you a free tour in the university as well. We'll show you the law program department. We're all very friendly here, so feel free to come by and visit us. And hopefully, as an alumni coordinator of the program, we would also like to organize one day a visit to Tilburg University. So potentially see if we have some alumni around.
Right.
We also offer free.
Yes, free coffee, great canteen. Well,
Yeah.
All right, it sounds like a plan for the two teams to meet up maybe. I have received a message from the participants of the debaters of the Tilburg University team. Maybe on the side of the coach, you would like to share, as your students don't have the connection right now.
Yeah, unfortunately, the connection is not really working with us, but if you come to Tilburg, come visit our beautiful campus. It is located in the middle of the forest, so it's a beautiful beautiful natural sight to see. And yeah, of course, like, it's a beautiful campus, but to be fair, we cannot compete with the large institutions that The Hague has to provide. If I speak on behalf of the Tilburg debaters, we would like, if we have the opportunity, to gladly visit your city someday, and also visit your law faculty and experience the wonders that your institutions have to provide for us.
thank you very much.
Right. Sounds like maybe a plan in order for the visits between the teams. Well, on the side of organization, once more, congratulations to both teams and also to the coaches for the start of your participation in this year's edition. Best of luck. I wish you all the best for the weekend to relax. And next week you shall hear your results.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And best of luck, everyone.